The truth hit Elena like a punch she never saw coming. At 392 pounds, her body felt like it was shutting down. She was only 34. Yet every morning felt like waking inside someone twice her age. The day she collapsed in her kitchen, gasping for air on the cold tile floor, she realized something terrifying. What would you do if your own body became your enemy? How far would you go to earn back your self-respect? Elena had spent years hiding behind jokes, long sweaters, and the lie that she would start next Monday. But that Monday never came. A sharp pain shot across her chest, and for a moment she wondered if this was how her story ended. Then a louder question burned inside her. What if this was her last chance to change? She didn't know it yet, but the fall on that kitchen floor would become the moment her entire life cracked open, and her transformation truly began. Elena didn't tell anyone about the collapse. She couldn't. Shame felt heavier than her body. But as she tried to dress that morning, her chest still throbbed. Something inside whispered that this wasn't just exhaustion. It was a warning. A final one. She looked at her phone for a long time before dialing Marcus. He always pushed her harder than she liked. But right now she needed someone who wouldn't let her lie to herself again. Marcus arrived in minutes. Her big brother never hid his concern well. The moment he saw her pale face and trembling hands, his tough guy mask cracked. He didn't tease her this time. He didn't tell her to walk it off. Instead, he told her to get in the car. They were going to the hospital. Elena wanted to argue, but she couldn't. Fear had already answered for her. The hospital smelled like cold metal and quiet dread. Elena sat on the examination table, her legs dangling. She felt small in a room designed to make no one comfortable. When Dr. Hannah Lee walked in, clipboard in hand and calm eyes scanning her, Elena braced herself. She already knew this conversation would hurt, but she didn't expect it to change everything. Dr. Lee told her the truth gently, but the words still felt like blows. High blood pressure, dangerous cholesterol, severe strain on her heart. The fall wasn't random. It was a sign her body could no longer carry the weight of her life. Elena felt tears form, but she didn't wipe them away. For the first time, she let herself hear every word. This wasn't about looking better. This was about surviving. Elena sat in the hospital parking lot long after her appointment ended. The papers Dr. Lee gave her felt like they weighed more than her entire body. It wasn't just the numbers that scared her. It was the truth behind them. She had ignored her health for years, thinking tomorrow would save her. But tomorrow never saved anyone. For the first time, she wondered if she had waited too long. Marcus didn't speak. He knew she needed silence, but Elena felt the weight of his worry pressing on her chest. Finally, she whispered the words she had been too afraid to say. I need help. Real help. And in that moment, something inside her shifted. Not confidence, but courage. The tiny spark of it, enough to ask for a new beginning. Dr. Lee scheduled Elena for a full evaluation. Blood tests, heart scans, mobility assessments, all of it. Elena felt exposed. Like every machine showed a truth she had tried to hide, but there was something different this time. She didn't run from it. She stood there, breathing through the fear, letting honesty take its place. And in the middle of the cold exam room, she learned the first secret of real transformation. You cannot change what you refuse to face. When the results came back, Dr. Lee didn't sugarcoat anything. Elena's numbers were alarming. Her heart was working overtime just to keep her alive. The fatigue, the chest pain, the collapse. It was all connected. But instead of drowning in fear, Elena listened. Really listened. Dr. Lee told her she wasn't too far gone yet. There was still time. And sometimes, hope doesn't come as a warm feeling. It comes as a warning. Dr. Lee recommended a detailed plan. Medical supervision, a nutrition program, and physical activity tailored to someone starting at nearly 400 pounds. Elena expected shame, judgment, maybe even anger. But instead, Dr. Lee spoke to her with respect. "You're stronger than you think," she said. No one had said that to Elena in a long time, maybe ever. It was the second secret she wished someone had told her years earlier. Change begins the moment someone believes in you, even before you believe in yourself. Marcus drove her home, but something about Elena felt different. She wasn't shrinking into her seat like usual. She wasn't avoiding mirrors or staring at her phone. She sat up straight, breathing slow and steady. It wasn't confidence yet, but it was the beginning of control. She looked at Marcus and whispered, "I'm ready." He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. His proud smile said enough. This was the moment Elena stepped out of fear and into her first step forward. Elena thought her biggest battle would be food. She was wrong. The real fight lived in her memories, the quiet places she never touched. Dr. Lee sent her to a therapist who specialized in emotional eating. Elena almost didn't go. Talking about feelings always felt harder than any diet. But as she sat in the small office chair, her heart racing, she realized something important. Losing weight wasn't just about her body. It was about everything she carried inside it. And some of that weight wasn't even hers to hold. Dr. Thompson asked her simple questions at first. About childhood, daily stress, what she felt before she ate. But simple questions can open heavy doors. Elena talked about loneliness, about hiding snacks in her room as a kid, about the nights her father yelled, and food became the only thing that didn't judge her. She realized she wasn't addicted to food. She was addicted to comfort. The more she talked, the more she understood the truth she had buried. Food wasn't the enemy. Silence was. Every time life felt too big, too loud, too painful, she ate to fill the gaps that love didn't reach. Dr. Thompson explained emotional triggers, how stress rewired habits, how comfort eating became survival. For the first time, Elena saw her past not as weakness, but as a map. A way to understand how she ended up here. Later that week, Elena visited her mother. She didn't plan to bring up the past, but seeing her childhood kitchen reopened old wounds. Lila had always meant well, but food was her love language. Every apology, every celebration, every moment of stress came with a plate. As Lila offered her fresh, sweet bread, Elena felt the pull of habit, that old familiar voice saying, "Just one won't hurt." But for the first time, she questioned where that voice came from. That night, Elena sat alone in her car outside her mother's house, thinking about every memory tied to food. It wasn't about blame. Lila loved her deeply, but love, given the wrong way, can still leave scars. Elena realized she had spent most of her life feeding emotions instead of facing them. This was the third secret she wished she knew sooner. If you don't heal your triggers, you will rebuild the prison you're trying to escape. And she was finally ready to break the cycle. Elena's first day at the gym felt like stepping into another world. The sounds of weights hitting the floor, people running on treadmills, the smell of rubber and sweat. It all hit her at once. She felt out of place. Too big, too slow, too exposed. But Marcus stood beside her like a shield. He didn't push her. He didn't tease. He simply said, "One step, that's all." And when Elena climbed onto the treadmill, her legs shaking, her heart pounding, she discovered something she hadn't felt in years. She was still capable of trying. The treadmill moved slow, but Elena's heart raced like she was sprinting. Sweat formed quickly. Her breathing struggled to keep up. Every step reminded her how far she had to go. But Marcus kept pace beside her, matching her rhythm, even though he could run miles. "Don't look at the distance," he said. "Look at the courage it takes to start." For the first time, she realized strength wasn't measured in speed, but in willingness. Over the next few weeks, Elena learned that progress wasn't pretty. Her knees ached. Her back protested. Some days she cried in the car before even stepping inside. But she kept coming back. She learned the burn in her muscles wasn't punishment. It was proof. Proof she was changing. proof she was fighting. The fourth secret of transformation revealed itself quietly. Your body will scream before it grows. Marcus introduced her to strength training next. Elena feared weights, afraid of looking weak, afraid people would stare, afraid she couldn't do it. But when she lifted that first dumbbell, even if it was small, something inside her shifted. Every rep felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. Every push felt like saying, "I'm still here." Marcus smiled and said, "This is where the real change happens." One evening, after a long workout, Elena stepped outside into the cool air. Her muscles burned, her legs wobbled. But for the first time in her life, she felt powerful. The scale hadn't moved much yet. Her clothes didn't fit differently. But she felt something deeper, control. This was the secret nobody talks about. Your body changes last. Your mind changes first. And Elena's mind had finally decided she was worth the fight. Progress wasn't a straight line. Elena had heard people say that, but she never understood how painful the dips could be. After weeks of pushing herself, her body finally pushed back. Her knees throbbed. Her back burned. Even walking to the kitchen felt like a battle. One morning, she stepped on the scale, and the number hadn't moved. Not even a pound. All the sweat, all the effort, and nothing. Her chest tightened. She felt the old voice rising. The one that said she'd never change. That she was foolish for trying. For the first time since starting, Elena wondered if she was fighting a battle she was never meant to win. Marcus tried to cheer her up, but Elena couldn't hear hope through the noise in her head. During workouts, she moved slower. Her breath felt heavier. She avoided mirrors again. One day, she broke mid-workout. Tears streamed down her face as she set the weights down. "This is pointless," she whispered. Marcus reached for her shoulder, but she stepped back. She didn't want comfort. She wanted answers. Answers she didn't have strength to find. Days passed, and Elena stopped showing up. The gym card stayed untouched in her purse. The meal plan lay hidden beneath piles of unopened mail. She told herself she just needed a break. But the break became distance, and the distance became silence. Dr. Lee called, Marcus texted. Nora checked in. Elena ignored them all. This was the dangerous part of transformation. The part where the mind tries to return to what it knows, even if it hurts. Old habits called her back like a lullaby she hated, yet understood too well. Nora showed up without warning. Bursting through the door with her usual energy, she found Elena half asleep on the couch. But the moment she saw her friend's face, her smile faded. Nora didn't yell. She didn't lecture. She simply sat beside her and said, "You don't have to be strong right now. Just don't disappear." And that was all it took for Elena to break. She cried into Nora's shoulder, letting out weeks of fear, anger, and shame. Sometimes strength begins with letting someone see you at your weakest. That night, Nora made Elena talk, really talk, about the pressure, the fear, the voice that told her she would fail. And when Elena finally said out loud, "I don't think I'm strong enough," Nora grabbed her hands and replied, "You don't need to be strong. You just need to keep going." It was the fifth secret Elena wished she knew from the start. The moments you want to quit are the moments that shape you most. And as she lay awake later that night, staring at the ceiling, she realized something quietly powerful. She wasn't done. Not yet. The next morning, Elena woke with a heaviness, but also a spark. She wasn't magically motivated. She wasn't suddenly fearless. But she was tired of being stuck. Tired of hiding. Tired of giving up right before the breakthrough. She got out of bed slowly, every muscle still sore from weeks of neglect. She stood in front of the mirror, expecting to see failure staring back. Instead, she saw someone who survived every battle life threw at her. Someone still standing. And quietly, she whispered the words that marked her rebirth. "I'm not starting over. I'm continuing." She returned to the gym quietly, almost afraid someone would call her out for disappearing. But the moment Marcus saw her walk through the doors, he didn't joke or question her. He just smiled. The kind of smile that said, "I knew you'd come back." Elena stepped onto the treadmill again, this time not as a beginner, but as someone reclaiming their spot. The first steps hurt, the second steps hurt, the second steps hurt more, but the pain felt different now. It felt like progress, not punishment. Days turned into weeks, and Elena rebuilt her routine with quiet discipline. She meal prepped. She walked daily. She showed up even when tired. But the biggest change wasn't in her habits. It was in her mindset. She stopped chasing fast results. She stopped punishing herself for slow progress. She learned the beauty of small wins. One extra minute on the treadmill. One healthy choice. One morning without giving up. This was the sixth secret she wished she knew earlier. Consistency is stronger than motivation. Strength training became her therapy. Each weight she lifted felt like shedding a layer of her past. One afternoon, Marcus watched her squat with perfect form, something she couldn't do months ago. She didn't notice him smiling behind her, but he saw everything. The new posture, the new confidence, the fire returning to her eyes. This wasn't the same Elena who once collapsed in her kitchen. This was a woman rising, slowly, painfully, powerfully. One night after a long workout, Elena walked past a shop window and almost didn't recognize herself. Not because she looked drastically smaller, she wasn't, but because she stood taller. Her shoulders were back. Her eyes had purpose. And for the first time in years, she liked the woman looking back at her. That moment carved a truth into her heart. The real transformation wasn't happening to her body. It was happening to her soul. A year passed, then another. Elena didn't transform overnight. She transformed one choice at a time. By the time she stepped back onto the scale and saw the number drop more than 200 pounds, she didn't scream or cry. She simply stared, stunned. The girl who once collapsed in her kitchen now stood stronger than she ever imagined. But the real victory wasn't the weight she lost. It was the life she gained. A life where she could breathe. A life where she could move. A life where she felt worthy, finally. When she walked into the gym that day, Marcus stopped mid-lift. He stared at her like she was a completely different person. Not because of her size, but because of her presence. She carried herself like someone who fought wars and survived. He hugged her, tighter than he had in years, whispering, "I'm proud of you." Elena realized something important. He wasn't proud of her body. He was proud of her heart. He was proud of her heart. Dr. Lee nearly teared up, reading Elena's updated charts. Healthy blood pressure. Healthy cholesterol, a strong, steady heart. But the part that moved Dr. Lee most wasn't the numbers. It was Elena's confidence. Her voice didn't shake anymore. Her posture wasn't small. She looked like someone who chose herself, finally. Dr. Lee placed a hand on her shoulder and said, "You saved your own life." Elena believed her. Later that evening, Elena visited her mother. When Lila opened the door and saw her daughter, healthier, happier, brighter, her hands flew to her mouth. She cried before saying a word. Not because Elena looked different, but because she was different. Elena hugged her tightly, knowing this moment wasn't about approval or pride. It was about breaking generations of silent pain. Healing didn't only change Elena, it changed her family, too. Months later, Elena sat in her quiet apartment, recording a video message. something she once felt too afraid to do. She didn't talk about diets or magic tricks. She talked about truth. She talked about pain. She talked about the secrets she wished she knew before losing 200 pounds. That healing matters more than hunger. That small steps change lives. That quitting doesn't mean failing. Staying down does. And with a soft smile, she ended her message with the words she lived by now. If I can do it, so can you? Because her story wasn't just survival. It was a blueprint for anyone ready to rise.